Welcome back, Swordplay and Sorcery, and welcome back everyone else. My name is Brandon Lane, and this is Let's Learn DC20. Today we'll be covering spellcasting. Spells, magic, sorcery. What is it? It's the ability to bend the laws of the world to your whim. With a thought or a dance, you might summon fire into your hands to light the dark or throw at an enemy. You might reach into the minds of others to twist their thoughts, or you may bend the light around you to become invisible. This might sound incredibly strong compared to martials, but many of spellcasters' abilities rely on a resource called mana, which only recovers on a long rest. Martials rely on stamina, which is a resource that's always recovering. But this video is about spellcasters, so let's take a look at how they cast spells. Spellcasting is a two-step process. Step 1, you need to know the spell, and Step 2, you need to spend the required resources in the form of action points and mana points. So how do spellcasters learn spells? Well, they can learn a number of spells equal to their spells known column in their class table, right here. When this number goes up, you can learn more spells. Easy as that. Of course, you can't just choose to learn any spell. You must choose a spell that matches your class's spell list, which you'll get whenever you gain a spellcasting feature. The example given in the alpha is that wizards can pick any spell in the arcane spell list, whereas scions can pick any spell from any list, but it must have specific spell tags or be of a specific school of magic. We'll cover those in more detail later on. In DC20, there are 3 core spell lists. We have Arcane. No, not that one, but you should watch it. This covers magic drawn from unrefined and raw magical sources that's then refined into a spell through some sort of incantation or ritual. Wizards, warlocks, and bards are closely tied to arcane magic. Then there's divine. This is magic drawn from divine beings, or even just the pure and raw belief in yourself and the power of friendship.
Don't fuck with me! I have the power of God and anime on my side! Wait,
Clerics are granted magic by gods, and paladins are granted magic through their sheer Sigma male grind set. And lastly, we have primal, which covers magic drawn from the world and the universe, and all the natural creatures within. Druids can use their primal magic through their relationship with nature, while shamans can use powerful totems to draw upon and manifest their powers. So now let's take a look at the spell resources. As mentioned, you will need to spend AP and MP. Well, cantrips don't require any mana points to cast as they are a very basic form of spells, but more powerful spells will require MP. For action points, the standard cost is 2 AP, but for weaker spells like cantrips, it could only be 1 AP, and on the flip side, some more powerful effects may even require more. Some spells may be even so powerful that they require multiple turns or allied spellcasters to help you cast the spell. Spells with mana point costs require you to spend at least that much MP on it. You can put more mana into a spell, upcasting it, to give it extra effects that enhance your spells in various ways, but you must do so before you make your spell check. If you cast a damaging spell with mana, but you miss the target, they'll still take half the damage anyway. A brand new character starts with no mana points, and you gain mana points from obtaining a spellcasting feature, either from your main class or by multiclassing into a spellcaster. At which point, you'll gain a number of MP equal to the MP granted from your spellcasting class, and, as of now, your prime attribute. So, for full casters at level 1, this will typically be around 6 mana points, assuming your prime attribute is maxed out. Some spells don't actually require any mana points at all, like I mentioned before, cantrips, but there's also any spell that has the ritual spell tag. These spells can be cast with no mana points, but you must spend 10 more in-game minutes on top of the original casting time to perform it as a ritual, bypassing any mana cost. The mana spend limit is an important rule to remember. Basically, you could only spend a number of mana points on any given spell equal to your combat mastery, which is half your level. You can cast multiple spells in a turn, but each spell can never spend more mana than your mana spend limit. So, for example, at level 6, a spellcaster could spend 3 mana points on any given spell. Some classes may have effects or abilities that require MP to spend, which aren't technically spells themselves. So, for example, a wizard could spend an action point and a mana point to place a sigil down that enhances their spells. This is similar to how some martial classes can spend stamina on their features, like barbarians and their rage. When you cast a spell, you'll make a spell check. This is always to determine the degree of success or failure when you cast a spell. Your spell check can be compared to the target's defense stats, spell DC, or a target's contested check. When making a spell check against a target's defense, it's usually to determine if the spell hits your target. We call this a spell attack. The damage type determines if you're targeting physical or mental defense. If you want to learn more about what that means, there's a video right here that you can check out. When you're making a spell check against the spell DC, it's usually to determine how successfully a spell is cast. If you beat the spell's DC, you can cast it normally, or maybe with an even better effect, depending on the degrees of success statements. If you fail, you still cast it at a lessened effect, unless it was a critical fail. Like maneuvers and techniques, some spells may make an attack check and force your target to make a save. Alpha 0.6 has changed up how dynamic attack saves work. You still make the attack check part as normal, but instead of the target making a save against your spell save DC, they just make a save against whatever your spell attack check was. So for example, if your attack check was a total of 15, they would have to roll a save to try and beat that 15, otherwise they will suffer the effect. Some other rules to note is that spells are still bound by the multiple check penalty. You can cast multiple spells in a turn, but each one adds a level of disadvantage, even if the spell failed to cast due to a nat 1. And like many other things in DC20, if a spell targets multiple creatures, you only make one check against all creatures, and any extra damage outside of the degrees of success can only target one creature. Finally, for today, some advanced spellcasting. I mentioned earlier about allied spellcasters combining spells. Well, to do that, at least one other creature must know the same spell as you, then you can pool your resources together. So, to do this, you must know the spell, have enough action points, be within 5 spaces of at least one other participant, and you must be sharing the same initiative. Then, you'll decide who the primary spellcaster is to act as the point of origin, and then you can contribute mana points between 1 and your mana spend limit. The total mana points spent must be at least the base cost of the spell, but there is no limit to the total mana spent as long as no participant exceeds their own mana spend limit. Then finally, all participants must make a spell check, and the highest save DC among them is used to determine the outcome. And finally, a creature can only be affected by a single magical effect of the same name. For example, if there is a magical effect on a creature, and you try and cast a spell with the same effect, you and the original spellcaster must make a contested spell check to see whose spell prevails over the others. And that's it for today. There is still more to cover for spells, but I'm a busy beaver, and I just don't have the time to put this all in one video and get it out at a reasonable time. Next time, we'll be covering the characteristics of spells. Cast the subscribe spell, and enhance it with the notification bell. If you're new here and want to learn about specific areas of DC20, go check out the Let's Learn DC20 playlist here. If you want to add the DC20 Alpha to your spellbook, then check out the first link in the description. There's been a price drop from $15 down to $10. You'll get this version of the Alpha and all future versions of the Alpha. I also get a small cutback of sales, which can help the channel. Well, goodbye.
Wait, didn't you forget something?
Oh, right, thanks. Consume. More content. Consume.
Bye.